I like complex things. Most would say it's impossible. You're attempting to boil the ocean.
Help do all of these different pieces. In 10 years, you look back and it's like, oh, it's working.
Positioning the district to be the desired place for folks to come and reside. Everything around you is going to promote health and well-being.
How does the Indy Health District prepare Indianapolis for expansive growth coming over the next 5 to 10 years? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Hey there! Before we jump into today's episode, I want to take a minute to thank the folks that made this nonprofit spotlight series possible, Elements Financial. As a credit union, they're a not-for-profit financial institution built on the idea of empowering individuals to achieve financial success. And they've been doing just that for 95 years, starting right here in Indiana. Now, they're based in Indy and proud to support Hoosiers, but their reach goes way beyond state lines. And they don't just talk about impact, they live it. Elements teaches more than 1,000 financial wellness classes annually. They pay their employees to volunteer, and they donate 1% of net profits to causes that improve lives. So yeah, it made perfect sense for them to back this series, because when it comes to supporting people doing good, Elements cares. Learn more at elements.org/getin. That's elements.org/getin and use code GETIN. Elements Financial, like a bank, only better. Federally insured by NCUA. Now let's get into this special nonprofit spotlight episode presented by Elements Financial. Today I'm joined by Jamal Smith, Executive Director of the Indy Health District, a groundbreaking nonprofit dedicated to improving quality of life in 5 historic Indianapolis neighborhoods through health, housing, and community development. Jamal has a background in leadership, advocacy, and civic engagement. He has been a driving force behind the transformational projects like the $8 million affordable housing development at 22nd in Illinois. If you've driven downtown, you've probably seen this. His mission is simple but ambitious: build healthier, more connected neighborhoods for all Hoosiers. I'm really excited to have you on the show. Jamal, welcome to Get In.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Nate, man. Thanks for having me.
Dude.
I got to match your energy. I don't know if you have guests come on here. It's hard if they don't match that energy, then it's a dud. So way to set the tone.
We're here to be fun and exciting. We're talking about fun things happening throughout the state of Indiana. And I am just a really easily excitable gentleman.
No, it's good. Setting the tone is important. You're like the point guard, so use a basketball analogy. And I like to shoot the ball. So this is good. It's going to work great.
This is perfect. I'll just get you with a little oop here. Well, we're talking about the Indy Health District today, and I think the first thing we have to do before we get into your background or just anything here is set the scene for what the Indy Health District is.
Absolutely.
Because I think that sometimes this might get confused with the new hospital project that's happening down there, like the IU Health campus, and this is a little bit different, and it's a little bit bigger, and the way that you're impacting our downtown Indianapolis community here. So set the scene for us.
Absolutely. So the Indy Health District, if you think, I always say think of the district in 2 terms. One, it's a physical space. It's a place you can go visit, right? Southern borders include St. Clair Street to the south. For the most part, Meridian to the east. So it goes all the way over to Meridian, heads north all the way up to about 36th Street, just shy of 37th. Heads west all the way to MLK. As it comes down MLK, it hits the creek, dog legs west around the creek, hits Indiana Avenue, and then back to St. Clair Street. So a little over 1,500 acres of, let's call it, real estate, right? It includes 5 historic neighborhoods: Crown Hill neighborhood, Meridian Highland neighborhood, the Highland Vicinity neighborhood, Ransom Place neighborhoods, and then, of course, the historic Flanner House Homes neighborhood. There's roughly about a little over 9,000 people who currently reside in the district. A little more than 30,000 people are in and out of the district on a daily basis. The other way that I say think about the district is that the Indy Health District, Inc. is a new nonprofit. It's a 501c3 responsible for stewarding the mission and vision of the district, right? So you might say, well, what is it? What is the mission and vision? Currently, if you live in that footprint that I just described, the census tract data says that you're scheduled to die in your mid-60s. Not get sick, not sprain an ankle, not catch COVID. You're scheduled to die. And much of that has more to do with social, environmental, and economic factors than does even your access to the hospital, which is also anchored in the district. So the Indy Health District's mission is to address all of the social impediments of health that negatively impact that life expectancy, whether directly or indirectly. So, of course, health access is one of them, but so too is the ability to afford where you live. So affordable housing. We want to have adequate education. So we want to improve the allotment of education in the space. Childcare, can you afford childcare? Do you make a livable wage? We want to support and invest in workforce development. And then some of the soft things like parks and trails and bike paths, et cetera, all of which are charged by the district. So if you think about it in comparison to like an innovation district, Mass Ave, or
16 Tech, right?
16 Tech, or entertainment district, more like Mass Ave, and there's others across the country, or a medical district. The Indy Health District is all of those things combined, and it's over 1,500 acres, which makes it one of the, if not the largest one in the country.
I think that there's a really interesting graph, map, chart, one of those three words, on your guys' site that says the average life expectancy in that health district in Indianapolis, 66 years old versus 91 years old in Carmel.
If you're in Carmel,
That's
nuts, isn't it?
Like you're 15 miles, like geographically, like maybe, I don't even know if it's that, could be 10.
Yeah, it's less than 10. And it's insane to say your zip code or your address should dictate how long you live. Think about that.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
When looking at that, right, like how long has this been in the works? Because it would be interesting too if like you think about where the new IU Health campus is going up, and for a hub of health and wellness and well-being to be in a place where the people that live around there maybe aren't
impacted.
Aren't having access to that, or aren't healthy, I would guess I would say. So how long has this been in the works to bring this to life, and what can we expect from the district?
Absolutely. And shout out to IU Health, because they are the kind of the incubators of it all, right? And I always say the new medical campus is the but-for factor, because the conversation we're having today, the but-for factor, but for the investment that IU Health is making in that new medical campus, we wouldn't see the amount of resource and energy behind the Indy Health District, which allows it to do all the things that we're setting out to do. So, again, shout out to IU Health, the CEO, Dennis Murphy, who said, look, we're going to build this new medical campus, but if I cut the ribbon on the hospital and all I have is a hospital, then I've failed. So how do we think about investment outside of the walls in the hospital that positively impact the community?
And I think that's good for people to know is that these are two separate entities.
They are.
You have IU Health as kind of that but for.
I call it the but for factor, right? Because the conversation we're having isn't new. There's been tons of reports that document the life expectancy, that document. There's a push for mental health. If you can do a search, tons of information will pop up. The lack of housing, not just in the health district, but throughout the city, that'll pop up. All these ills have been there. And there's been tons of reports that talk about or make recommendations about how to address them, but very little has been done over the decades. The investment in the Indy Health District, the but-for factor by IU Health, allows the Indy Health District to actually execute on some of those recommendations. So you'll see some of it come to life. We are investing in it and installing trails in the district, one that's coming down from the creek down to 21st Street. We have, and we can talk about this a little bit more, but the Mosaic Center, which is a workforce training initiative where we are supporting the under and unemployed in the community. There's tons of stuff going on.
And what's interesting about this is sometimes local residents in these historic neighborhoods are against new development because when it comes in, it pushes them out.
That's right.
And they end up, displaced from homes that, might have been, or places that might have been in their family. Like it's a legacy there. So, and I know that there was even some articles put out, like Mirror Indy did a thing, and we were looking through this. How are you guys working to come alongside the residents of these historic neighborhoods to make this an awesome place for the tradition and the legacy, as well as all the new, cool, innovative stuff that's coming?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing I point out is that going back to a piece of your original question, we started the work about 5 years or so ago, right? And before we officially announced or created anything, we just sat down with the community and listening sessions and surveying and one-on-one meetings and neighborhood association meetings. And we just wanted to hear, hey, what's going on? What do you see? What do you want? What don't you want, et cetera? And they began to fill out the game plan for the district.
If you had to describe the current residents within the Indy Health District, what do they look like? What do they do for what's that like? So you can paint the picture for me.
You got some amazing folks, man. All shapes, sizes, colors, ages, etc. You've got teachers, tradesmen, tradeswomen. You've got transportation workers. You've got the whole gambit, right? And then you have some folks who need support as well.
Yeah.
So you got the whole thing there. And right now, I would describe them as excited. But first they were skeptical, as they should be, right? And here's somebody else coming in with a bunch of promises and asking questions about what's going on.
Yeah, and like what comes with this is like
you're gonna push me out.
Yeah,
you're
right,
gonna
like
build something and I'll be homeless. Yeah,
and it's like, and all of a sudden,
So and there's a history of that. So we have set out the spirit of, and I fall short of calling it gentrification. That's the word that everybody goes to, right?
Yeah.
But if you talk to folks in the community, they'll tell you, like, I want my neighborhoods invested in. I want my community to look better, be better, feel better. What they don't want is the historic displacement that happens by way of gentrification. So our goal is to set out to avoid that as best as we can. Usually you go to affordability, right? Because you can't help but the market is going to kind of dictate what it does. And affordability is important, which why one of the reasons we're investing in small businesses, incubating new businesses, as well as affordable housing. That's important.
Yeah.
But in addition to because I can say, look, even if I could afford to live in my home, but if every time I walked out of my house, nothing around me spoke to me, my family, or my culture, then in essence, you've displaced me anyway. So we want to invest and you want to live there. So we want to invest in all the things. One of the requests is for a grocery store or a coffee shop. We want the coffee shop to be reflective of what the people want. It may not be Starbucks. It may be a local, a local business who's got a coffee shop. We might need to move, get in the podcast to the Indy Health District, have you set up shop, have Nate right at the heart of it so you can keep telling the story of the people in the district. But it'd be local, it'd be hyper local. And that's what we want, man. We want people to continue. We want to invite more people in, but not at the expense of the folks who already live there.
That is hard. And I feel like it's great that you're talking about it, because I feel like it gets hard as the districts get money poured in and invested into updates or whatever it is. Then real estate investors and outside, people from California start buying houses in these districts and flipping them and making junk house. Not junk, but they're not like the best stuff. And
they're not what the people want.
Yeah, and then it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I could just, I don't, I walk out my door, I don't resonate with what's in my neighborhood today.
Yeah.
And by the way, I could just sell the house and make a little money and then move somewhere and and the cycle repeats.
Yep.
So this is very interesting as we think about the Indy Health District. What I want to go to before we talk more about all of the hows that's coming together is why this, why for you, why are you pouring into this, and how did you end up at the helm of this whole thing?
God's will, really. I've been fortunate enough, I think, in my professional career to get paid. I know it's going to sound cliche, to make the world a better place, right? And I know that, but in my career, everything that I've been afforded the opportunity to do has in some way, shape, form, or fashion, I think, contributed to positive impact of the city I live in. Not only do I love what I do, I sleep well at night. This is no different. It's just on a scale magnified like no other right now.
Yeah. What was so appealing to you about this opportunity to come in and really take this big swing to make this historic district a better place? I
like complex things. It's a really big puzzle, right?
Yeah.
In fact, most would say it's impossible. Most would say this is you're attempting to boil the ocean.
Right, community development, workforce development, real estate,
education,
the whole nine yards.
Even, like I said, trails, pocket parks, food access, all of the things.
How big's your team?
We are a mighty team of one right now, right?
Sir.
It's me, myself,
it's him,
and I,
and your Coleman camp stove with the entire Pacific Ocean on top of it, just ripping that.
But no, in all seriousness, we have a team of supporters, supporting anchors make out my board. IU Health being one of them. Ivy Tech, Citizens Energy Group, IU School of Medicine, and our wonderful Indianapolis Children's Museum. And so they lend their expertise, to help support. And we've got some consultants and things. But right now, and we're looking to grow. We're going to grow.
The kind of central piece would be the new IU Health complex, right in the center of the district, maybe center south. And then the top, the northern border would be the Children's Museum kind of up. I know you said 46. That's just a
36.
little... Or 36 is where okay, so just a little bit north of the Children's Museum,
but you're right, that's their node. So going north, you have the Ivy Tech, then fades into the Children's Museum. Of course, Citizens as a utility is kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're a big supporter as
And
well.
then MLK brings it down that on the western side there. Yeah, this is super cool. Okay, so when did this opportunity get presented to you, and like, when did you get pulled into this?
We were doing some work with the school districts through an organization we created called the Lead Change Project at the time, also big and complex. We were looking to, I believe in the power of sport and all the benefits that sport brings to all people, but in particular young people who are developing, right?
Yeah.
Our theory at the time was that if all the data that says, kids perform better academically, more likely to graduate, less likely to become teenage parents, less likely to experiment with drugs and alcohol, better leadership skills, better time management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If all those things are true, then the kids who need it the most are getting it the least. And so we partnered with IPS in an attempt to improve the percentage of young people who are participating. In the midst of doing all of that, a few of my colleagues at IU Health were saying, hey, we're going to build this hospital. And to the point I made earlier, CEO is like, hey, if all we end up with is a hospital, then we failed. Yeah. So looking for some people to help us think through what investment in the community would look like, and there you have it.
That's cool. And one of the first big projects that came about was just recently. You guys opened the $8 million affordable housing?
So just recently, so housing is a big one. There's a housing shortage across the city, actually across the country. I mean,
everywhere.
Everywhere.
This is the number, whether it's rural, urban, everywhere, they're just housing.
Yeah, housing is an issue.
I'm it's just a wild thing to continuously hear over and over again.
I'll put a pin in the fact that the district is ideally a space where we can make investments, really charge into a lot of what the community has been investing and or requesting. And for the things that work, we look to figure out how and those things can be replicated in other parts of the city or in other parts of the state. So it becomes a testing ground, if you will, for the state of Indiana, and a great one that I think can be modeled in other spaces. Housing, to your point, really big issue. And so we're trying to take the lead on that. The one we broke ground on a couple weeks ago was a series of townhomes and duplexes, all affordable, mind you.
How does that work?
Yeah.
So you get paid to make the world a better place. I get paid to ask the silly questions that everyone's kind of thinking, but no one's ready to ask. It's okay, when you talk about affordable housing, what does that mean in practice? Yeah. How does that go about? And what does that look like today in 2025 when you say an $8 million affordable housing? You guys just broke ground on it. Take me through what that looks like.
Facts. And you know what? In all fairness, we shouldn't just throw out the word affordable, because what's affordable to you may not be affordable to me. Yeah. I will say the definition for it, or the algorithm, if you will, is kind of set up by HUD, Housing and Urban Development. But HUD sets what is affordable, right? Yeah. It's a percentage of what is considered the area median income. In other words, the average or median of what folks make, depending on your percentage of what that number is, that dictates what you can afford. And so affordability is determined by HUD. So we follow that and then, try to perform it as best we can. Affordable housing is difficult because typically the math doesn't math. In essence, right? You're saying in the real world, 2 + 2 is 4, right? With affordable housing, we're saying 2, we're going to give you 1, but it still needs to equal 4.
Yeah.
So someone has to subsidize.
And we've had real estate developers on here. I would say, Indiana, we have been blessed with what I believe some good community partners in Indiana that have done good stuff. I know, is Onyx and East a partner on that? Yeah,
they are the developers on it. Yeah. Near North is kind of the owner of it. The city of Indianapolis was a partner, obviously. INHP, Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership, was a partner. IHCDA at the state was a partner. So we had a
lot of acronyms.
Absolutely. And in order to pull off something like affordable housing, it's going to take a multitude of partners.
That's the piece where, if you think about previous episodes where you talked real estate development, you come in, right? The bank financing, all the thing works, and then you look at leases, and you make enough money to service this debt, and and create something where the value of it is equitable to what your people are paying for it. Yeah. Something with affordable housing is actually based on, you have to look at median income. Yep. And then you take a percentage of that, I'm assuming, based on the average person spends 30 to 40%, whatever it is, on rent or on housing. Yeah. And then you have to make that math from the opposite, not based on what the numbers of the actual property or deal is. Yeah. That sounds very complex.
It is very complex. And I'll say this too: the experts, whomever they are, say that you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. So if you're spending 30% or more, then you're
Like
considered housing cost burdened.
What's the median income in the Indy Health District?
Well, it's not just the Indy Health District. They set it. Yeah, HUD sets it for the entire.
For the area? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know that number? And I don't put you on the spot if you don't know. No.
This is 50 to 80% affordable. In other words, 50 to 80% of the AMI, the area and median income, is what the target affordability is for that housing development.
It's interesting. It'd be curious to see, like, because, you know, if you go to 96th and Meridian, the area median income is probably a little bit different. I wonder how they calculate all of that to figure out how to bring a project like this to life.
Yeah, I don't know, a room full of nerds over at HUD trying to figure it out, right? And they kind of dispense it out to the rest of the country, and then we follow it. Yeah. But I'll say that as a guy who grew up a kid in the inner city, watching mom work a couple jobs, trying to make it work. Even what they announce is affordable today, I think to myself, there's no way my mom could have, even if I, translated, the mid 80s to now, it just feels extreme for her to have afforded that. So even though I'm saying affordable and all the data says it's affordable, I go, man, that feels heavy.
It's this very, very complex.
Now, and I'll say this too, the housing needs to be diverse. We don't want all affordable housing. We want the mix. We want some market rate housing. We want some affordable housing. We want kind of that middle ground, what they call workforce housing. And we don't want all multifamily. We want some single family. We want some townhomes and duplexes. So we are charging ahead, trying to figure out how to deliver that diversity in
housing.
housing.
It'd be interesting too, like even the luxury house, like, if you want to build a district where like everybody comes together,
some of that too.
Have like a spot where if like a young person, like, because I do think if like downtown, if you work in the Salesforce Tower, like you're probably making some pretty good, like decent money, but like not everyone wants to live in the heart of downtown. So having like, a place that you could come
just
and
near North,
post up there.
We built some swanky stuff for some folks to get into.
And the interesting piece too about when you think of like the near north side of Indianapolis is the history of those neighborhoods. Yeah. Those houses are freaking beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Like, they're spectacular. Yeah. The whole rent and like housing piece is just so hard because it's like, wow, am I gonna spend the same amount of money to live in this historic old home or like a brand new apartment? What am I? I think it's like it's interesting, but like if you can crack the code on how to bring lots of different people together in the same space, like that's where like vibrant, beautiful, like Fountain Square, like historically Broad Ripple, like you can bring a lot of different people in together. Magic happens, arts, culture, the whole nine yards, industry. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm excited.
There you go. I'm telling you, we're trying to recruit you there, man.
Yeah, right.
How do we get you over to the district, man? Come on.
We'll talk. I mean, I'm there. I'll pop in. But talk to me though about this first like domino that's falling is this project. When I think about, okay, we're creating the Indy Health District.
Yep.
What is that like? What is that? Like, is it like a development progress that gets rolled out, or is it?
It's all those things.
How will we know when this is working?
Well, one, we've got to continue to do a better job of talking about the district, explaining it, showing people. And we've got to continue to do a good job of delivering on some of these commitments. So the latest, you mentioned the housing piece, is the latest. It's not the first. We actually invested and partnered with Near North Development Corporation and the city of Indianapolis on a trail that comes down Capitol Street beginning at Fall Creek and comes down to 21st Street was the first phase. One of the goals for the district is to make it one of the most connected spaces in the city, right? So that trail will ultimately end up connecting to the canal, to the cultural trail, et cetera, so that we increase that amount of connectivity. People can walk, bike, jog, et cetera. So we executed on that. We've made investments in childcare, partnered with Early Learning Indiana, looking to do more in that space. Some of the things that pop up in the district aren't necessarily investments by the district, but supported by the district. A local developer, one of the first housing developments went up at 18th and Illinois called Wesley Place. Arrow Street was a developer on that, a little over 200 units of housing mixed. And we didn't necessarily put any money into that, but we supported and supported the developer so that investment could go in. So, it's collaboration and partnership will be key. One of the answers to how are you going to pull this off is being consistent and collaborative with a number of partners to pull it off. There's nothing that we're doing in the district that doesn't require a number of partnerships.
It's challenging too. Like I always respect people that sit in the shoes because I'm like if I have a problem, I want to go out and fix it today.
Yeah.
And it's like you have a lot of partners, a lot of different opinions, voices,
cooks in the kitchen.
A lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But you just have to keep going, and you got to start getting those wins under your belt, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, wait. I feel like is part of the district or this piece. I feel like I've driven down Capitol before, and sometime in the past couple of years, like a big speed bump was put in like this neighborhood, and like the first time I drove through there, it kind of caught me off guard, and I'm like, oh, like,
that was a speed bump. Yeah,
and it's like, wait, this is. Like just that little thing like gets me to like look around and like look at the neighborhood and like just I don't know, be a little more present. I suppose.
Yeah, communities they requested that.
Yeah,
so
because people were going.
That's right.
Exhibit A right here.
Yeah. So one of the things we continue to tap into the community, and their list is fairly consistent. Food access has been the number one requested item, specifically at grocery store, because in that large footprint, there is no grocery store.
There's no grocery store there?
No, that's what everybody says. I go, nope, go drive.
Like, is the closest one that, like, is it a Kroger down on
There's
like...
a Kroger on like Washington or Michigan. And
like
then there's another
south.
Kroger east of the district on College that no one likes to go to, unfortunately.
Well, we've been there.
But in that 1,500 acres, there's no food, there's not a big enough food footprint, no grocery store, and that's the number one thing they request. 2 has been housing in terms of requests or conversation from the community. 3 has been safety and security. And when you think about safety and security, you might think that people are asking for like gun safety or like violent crime issues. No, most of them are saying, hey, I live on Capitol, to your point. It's a drag strip. People drive too fast. I don't feel safe crossing the street. Or, the lights in the back of my home in the alley have been out forever. I don't feel safe coming home at night. Or the park. The one park that we have is torn up, and I don't feel safe letting my kids go play in the park. So investments like the speed bump and the trail have been a part of that safety and concern request that the community's been making.
I love that is an intentional speed bump because it's like made me think and stop and take in. And sometimes, I don't know, you're like commuting, you're going wherever you're going, you're like not thinking about the world, and you don't like take time to like, I don't know, breathe in a little bit about what's going on in these neighborhoods throughout our community.
It's funny, I'll say things like, there's no grocery store. I'm like, really? I drive through there every day. And I'll go, yeah. To your point, you just kind of drifting through on your way to wherever
Capitol, right?
And you're not paying attention to the fact that these things either don't exist or are in need of repair.
Yeah, and you talk about food, whether grocery store, and even just like restaurants in general, like not a ton in that area.
And all those are on the docket to, bring to the district at some point.
Yeah, wow.
You talk about deliverables, right? So, again, the number one request is a grocery store. I've learned way more about grocery than I think I'd ever want to know. It's a fairly complex.
Of course it is. Because why would you be involved in anything that's not complex?
Well, that's absolutely right. Yeah. Why do I get up in the morning? And we're working on it. I feel like we are really, really close to cracking that code. In the meantime, we had to go back to the community and say it's going to take some time. Take us through
what that process looks like. How do you convince Kroger, Aldi, Whole Foods, whoever, to like, hey, there's a spot, like you should be an anchor tenant somewhere in here?
Yeah. Well, so interestingly enough, we started when the request came, it was flooded in by the community. We want a grocery store. Yeah. We started having conversation. And I remember sitting down with a group of consultants who have grocery store chains as clients.
Yeah.
And one guy, he was a bit of a jerk. At least I thought he was. But his comment was honest. He goes, look, there's a reason why there's no grocery store in this space. So you freeze, right? He goes, our clients are in the business of making money. And most of them are, margins might be small, but they're
pretty good at it.
They're pretty good at it. So if there was money to be made, we would be here. And I sat and froze. I wanted to like punch him in his face a little bit, but you thought, he's got a point. So our goal and our strategy is to change that narrative. We need to increase the density in the district. Like I said, help support those who live in the district first, but create a space where others can come in so that we we increase the population and the density, incubate business in the district so more people are coming in on a daily basis. So we're investing in current business, we're incubating new business. That brings more population into the space as well. And then that changes the narrative or the desire for a grocer, for example, to come in. There also need to be some subsidy in the space, maybe land, some monies, et cetera. And then we'll need a partner, whoever the grocer is, who agrees with the mission. Right, who agrees in supporting the overall goals of the Indy Health District?
Yeah, I know this has been a huge, a long time talking about on the east side of downtown too. Like there's a food desert on that side.
Yep.
And they've been like just talking about how to, and it's not, you're right. Like, and I mean, again, the comment is like pretty, it can definitely hit you abruptly where
You're
it's like,
jerk.
I mean, but
But
they're like capitalism in general. Like they're in the business of making money and like, it's like there's a reason they probably have maps of where they know
they've got
major
a whole-
metros where they know. That's interesting.
I picture like Pinky and the Brain. They're in the back room with this map and all these machines, right? And they're like, this is where we're
like
gonna
the
go.
protractors, like drawing circles out there.
Yeah.
And it's like it is interesting to think where it's like that. Like there's a strip. Like I live up here in Broad Ripple, and it's like along Keystone. There you can hit like Aldi, Meijer. You can hit Walmart a little further up, Kroger.
Yep.
Like it's like
Got your choice.
and it's
Got
like
your
sometimes
choice.
I'm like, dang, I don't know which one. I go to Kroger because it's the closest. But it's like we gotta take that for granted.
Yep.
And there's other neighborhoods where, I mean, and think about even Broad Ripple 4 years ago. Like there was another Kroger in downtown Broad Ripple by the Fresh Market.
Yeah.
Or a Fresh Time, and then there's Fresh. Like again, like you think like they're in the business of making money. Like they must have found that there was a way to make money here, and so that'll be interesting to see how that process goes and how you can attract a grocer to come in there.
Yeah.
And
And
are there like other like are you guys looking at what other cities have done?
Oh, absolutely.
Like what are like
Not just for grocery store, but for the whole thing.
Like are there other like who are some inspirations?
Probably the closest aligned has been the University Circle in Cleveland. One in size. They're smaller than us, but they're bigger than the average, right?
Yeah.
They're about 1,000 acres. The Indy Health District is 1,500 acres.
Yeah.
But they have embodied the urban development, the art, the culture, et cetera, into the space. And we asked them, bluntly, kind of what were some of your mistakes, because they've been at it for a few decades, right? One of the things, and one of the reasons we got so large is we listened to what they said. They said when we first did it, we created kind of this railroad track, this line in the sand, if you will, that created this have and have-nots. Oh. And once we did that, the have-nots started to infiltrate the spaces of the haves, almost as to say, how dare you, right? How dare you draw that line in my face and tell me I can't access those things? And so they had to rethink that and kind of, begin to invest out further.
You want like soft edges.
You want
right?
soft edges, but you also want to be conscious about not creating boundaries or cutoffs, if you will, right? Like we want to create an inclusive place where everyone feels welcome and wants to come, support, spend money, live well, be healthy, all those things. A difficult thing to do and expensive and complex. And so we want to make sure that collaboration partnerships are all in place.
Yeah. Hey, Indiana, if you're a business owner with big plans, listen up. Whether you're expanding, renovating, or breaking ground on something brand new, you need a banking team that's ready to back your vision. That's where my friends on the Elements Financial Commercial Banking team come in. These folks are based right here in Indy, and they're known for something rare. They look for reasons to make things work, not excuses to say no. That's the kind of mindset that moves Indiana forward. They've got tools to help you build, grow, and thrive. We're talking commercial loans for real estate, construction and equipment, business checking, savings and certificates, treasury management and credit card processing, lines of credit to keep things moving. So if you're ready for better banking built around your goals, head to elements.org/getinbiz. That's elements.org/getinbiz. Elements Financial, like a bank, only better. Federally insured by NCUA and equal housing lender. Now let's get back into the episode. And so when we think of a health district, like what is a health district? I don't know. Where does that come from and what does that mean to be a part of a health district?
Absolutely. So again, going back to that North Star, which is life expectancy, right? We thought about all the things that were impacting, the reasons why people were dying in their mid-60s. And again, all social, economic, and environmental factors. And so the district is a space and a place where the development in it creates an opportunity for folks to be as healthy as possible, right? They have healthy food options. They have healthy physical activity options. Their jobs create opportunities for them to earn a livable wage, and they can therefore be healthy. They can afford the things that they need to exist in life, like childcare, and their education is good, which sets them on a trajectory to have things like health insurance. So everything in the district is thought of in terms of how it impacts that life expectancy. How do we make your life and your ability to live and a space and place for well-being, if you will.
Is the North Star, and again, it's not all about metrics. Some of it you feel, you see, but is the North Star metric, let's say 50 years from now, if that average life expectancy in this community increases 10, 20 years, would you say that this has been a success?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's a big needle. So that life expectancy, as you pointed out, it's not going to change next year. Not if we're sincere about it, right? So even if it's 10, 20 years down the line, but there are some other impacts and some other metrics that feed into that. So housing is an example. Some of them are easy to measure. We look at the amount of need for housing, the amount of affordable housing.
How do you measure that? How do you measure the need of housing in a community?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're working on that housing assessment, and it starts with what the city has shown us what the need is, and then you can extrapolate that out based off of the 1,500 acres that makes up the Indy Health District, and say, we're responsible for X percentage of that total number, and so how do we bring more housing units online, and then we track that progress.
Yeah.
So if we are, if that means we are responsible for 1,500 housing units, we start tracking against that piece.
Yeah, and you start like,
hey,
down. Yeah,
one foot in front of the other, baby.
Amen. How does it work with all of these different public partners, private partners, a healthcare system, a board, and then private real estate developer? Like, it just feels like a lot to make work, and like people that have like again, if you're a real estate developer, at the end of the day, like you pay your employees by making a profit.
That's right.
So like, I don't know, it's like, are there specific developers that have to go out and like, I was just in thinking, it's like, well, if I could build an affordable housing project, or if I could build a
market rate,
like whoever's developing Midtown Carmel, it's great. Like you're probably going to get a lot more like profit at the bottom line there. So how does that balance, and how do all these partners work together?
In everything, we're seeking partners, not just transactional members of the district. So we want people who support the mission and who are willing to put some skin in the game to achieve it. I do think two things can be true at the same time. I think we can do good and people can actually make money. And our goal is to position the district in that space that allows folks, companies, businesses, institutions to have a really good balance sheet, but also a healthy community that surrounds the space.
And I think that's crucial too, to build a long-term, like self-sustaining neighborhood. It has to work like that. Like, like, again, like you talk about a grocer's looking at that, it's like, we're in the business of making money. Like, and if you can build that up and, incubate some small businesses and help do all of these different pieces and then come together, and then in 10 years you look back and it's like, oh, it's working. It's running itself.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons I go back to the but-for factor. Like, it is difficult just thinking about it. But IU Health's investment, I think the last reported number is $4.5 billion in that space. Just think about the amount of energy that resonates from that investment. That energy is what is allowing. It's that current, like the pebble that dropped in the ocean, and that current is carrying through the district and allowing us to do some of the things that we're doing now.
Well, we saw some research that said by 2030, Indianapolis is projected to be one of the fastest growing metro areas in the Midwest. How does the Indy Health District pair into this to prepare Indianapolis for what seems to be expansive growth coming over the next 5-10 years?
The district we are positioning the district to be the desired place for folks to come and reside, right? And knowing that when you do so, everything around you is going to promote health and well-being.
Never been cooler than I think it is now. Like you talk about
and fun, right? Yeah. Two things can be true. We can be healthy and you can have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to think about the programming things. We focus a lot on the development, but we want to make sure it's fun. I can see us having like 5K that we run in the district, all in the spirit of health and wellness, and events and programs for kids. Art, like Butter, is an event that's going on this weekend. It's in the district at the Stutz.
We just had Alan on the podcast. It dropped yesterday.
There you go. So Alan and Molly, big supporters of the district. We want them to be headquartered in the district. Butter is in the district. Things like that make it exciting.
The Stutz would technically, this is part of
Stutz is in the district as well.
See, this is good to know.
That development,
because I feel like they are starting to get a little bit of notoriety, a decent chunk of notoriety at the Stutz.
Yep.
I mean, MGK just like pops up and does.
He did a road show. I was there. Yeah, absolutely.
Jamal, You were there.
So
you didn't think to call your buddy Nate.
I know, Nate. I know. I'm you holding it over my head.
Yeah,
I know.
Okay, so in the future,
it's true. My brother-in-law works with MGK actually, and that's how. So he calls me up and says, "Hey, we're doing a pop-up show." I said, "Really? Where at?" And goes, "Some spot in downtown Indy."
How did it happen?
Well, I was calling to check on my sister.
No, well, I mean, how did MGK decide?
Well, he's got a new album he's dropping.
Yeah,
so they're doing these small,
Turner's.
intimate. Yeah, that they're doing across the country. They're doing these small bars where he just pops up.
So Indy Health District, you never know who might be doing.
You never know who's
show.
popping up in the district.
Let's just say
we're gonna do big concerts. I can see that happening.
Can you put me on the short list for any sort of other cool thing like that?
Absolutely, because you're gonna cut a ribbon on the new podcast opening up in the Health District. We're gonna get you over there.
We're talking. That's amazing. It's cool. You talk about health, wellness has never been cooler, right? Like young kids, their habits are a little bit different. I won't say young kids, but like college grads,
younger generation,
like the college kids today. Their habits are a little bit different than what we were. I mean, even I graduated in 2019. Like even however long ago that was, 5, 10, however long. The habits are changing and different, and living in a healthy. A place that has health in mind, I don't know, seems pretty cool to me.
Yeah, and health, not just physical health, just the mental health, like your just state of being, because the more mentally, stable you are, more, the happier you are. My guess is there's a correlation between that and how long you live too, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that have to come together over the next few years. You talk about all these different partners and pieces and moving, like there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
If you could just snap your fingers and bring any project to life in the Indy Health District tomorrow, what would it look like? Paint us a picture of what that would look like.
It'd be a grocery store. And it'd be a major development at the heart of the district where a grocery store is connected to multiple retail anchors, like a bank, and then, a space where, nonprofits who are doing good work, like Molly and Alan with Gang Gang, and others are headquartered in that space as well. Some small businesses are all there, and it's vibrant. We throw little pop-up concerts, outdoors, indoors. We do an outdoor rally for Nate where you do the podcast outside with
dude, he's hyping me up.
10,000 people surrounding, concerts in between the takes. Everybody just wants to be there, and the anchor, they've got the hospital there, the Children's Museum. It's a vibrant space and place, man, with tons of activity, where you've got a mix of affordability, you've got good bars and restaurants, you've got great education so people and their kids can get well educated, and people are just living a healthy life, man. Living a healthy life.
Wow. I mean,
you did say I could snap my fingers and do whatever.
Good.
Why not dream big, right?
Mr. and Mrs. Kroger, longtime listeners of the podcast, let's bring this thing to life. Come on.
Absolutely.
No, and I think that but I don't know, if you put this out into the world and you say these things and you speak and people can see the vision, they come together and they know what it's one thing to have some renderings and ChatGPT,
the cool part is
makes you some.
There's not a conversation I've had where somebody goes, "That's a horrible idea," right? Like everybody gets it.
Yeah.
My job is to make sure that I provide the game plan for it to happen. And some of that is compartmentalizing it so that you know what your piece of the game plan is, so that you don't have to eat the whole elephant at one time. Now, that's a difficult job for me, but if I can make your piece of it simple, then you can help me deliver the big picture, right?
And know how your piece is just a small building block of this bigger
piece.
Where it's like, okay, it's not just a grocery store. It's not just a bank. It's not just a trail. It's not just a speed bump.
Right.
It's not just a speed bump.
Yes, right? That's right. Think about what it does, that ripple effect.
And when you think of that, again, I live this. This happened to me.
Yeah.
This speed bump comes out of nowhere. I look around and I'm like, oh,
what was that?
Wait, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
And then you start to just stack, and then fast forward however long later, and we're talking about it here.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the art of a true leader, the sign of a true leader. If you can get the grocery store developer and the bank and the this and the that and all and the pop-up concert and our friends at the Vogue and 45 to be like, I want to go.
That's right.
Bring I Made Rock and Roll Festival down there.
That's right.
Then it's and they see how they're each little
pull
brick.
Up this weekend in the district. You're gonna see that, right?
Yeah, for butter.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's happening.
I love it.
It's happening, and I always say, wait till you see what we do next.
Amen. Man, this has been awesome. It's been so fun. We're gonna shift gears a little bit as we wrap up the podcast.
Yeah.
We talked Indy Health District. Now we're just gonna talk Indiana for a little bit.
Okay.
All right. As we wrap up, funny that we talked about real estate development and all that. So this next question is brought to you by our friends at JC Hart. They are a leader in creating enjoyable living experiences at apartment communities all across Indiana and beyond. Check them out at homeisjchart.com. My question for you, Jamal: Why do you call Indiana home?
You know, I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, but I've grown up in Indiana. And the interesting part is, like, it's beautiful how Indy, it's like this amateur sports capital of the world, right? I was fortunate enough to play a little ball, suffered an Achilles tear.
Where'd you play at?
A little bit everywhere. I started out in Oklahoma, then University of Colorado in the Springs for a couple of years. Played a little semi-pro ball in Chicago, but I was going to Purdue while doing that. And that's where I, tore my Achilles. Had some time to reflect, so I'm here. Took an internship with the NCAA, Sports Corps of the Black Coaches Association. In that journey of kind of self-discovery, right, you're kind of learning what's important to you, and I think everybody goes through that at some point. For me, my personal pillars, one of them is family, and I'll say I've been able to build my family here, and I can't imagine a better place to have done so. So that's a long-winded way of getting to the answer of your question, which is why I call Indiana home. It's where it's been a great place for me to have raise my family.
It's not that impactful when the guy who's always lived in Indiana raves about how great Indiana is. Yeah. But when you've gone out and you've been different places and seen different things, and then I almost love the Hoosiers by choice, like more than I love we're lifelong. It's like that's a piece of it. But if you've been out and seen different things and still elected to make this place home, I think that's pretty special. Yeah. What was the first neighborhood that you walked when the Indy Health District launched? Like, where did you go to just like visualize, feel this, and like that really got you to like be excited about the job?
I did the entire district. I did all 5 neighborhoods, and I took that month, and I spent some time, and then we walked walk the beat. There were a few nodes. 22nd in Illinois is a node. If you stand at that corner, you'll see what I mean. 29th and MLK is another node. If you stand on that corner, you'll see what I mean. 34th in Illinois is another node. If you stand on that corner, you'll know what I mean. And I did that. And I just sat, man. And I spoke to a lot of the folks kind of hovering around, walking around the space, some of the business owners there, and talked to them about what's been happening, what hasn't been happening. And you just kind of digest that all.
What's the history of that segment of town?
I will say, one of the cool things that I've learned, those 5 neighborhoods are very unique.
Like each one of them
are very unique. In fact, as we think about what development looks like, we've got to be respectful to each of their respective cultures and histories. Yeah. And they have these pillars within them. Crispus Attucks is in the district. Crispus Attucks, as a high school, might be one of the most historical high schools, not just in the Indy, but in the country. There's a PBS special if you watch. I mean, it is amazing the amount of...
Why is it so historic?
It's a historically black high school, first of all.
Yeah. It's
kind of sickening how it became the high school it became, but how it just kind of flew out of the ashes, I think, is amazing. I mean, there's stories about how, candidly, white folks at that time didn't want their kids going to school with black people. Sucks. They create Crispus Attucks in a space called the Bottoms, that was the nickname, right? The Bottoms. Think about it, right? Yeah. So it birthed out of this thing. And at
Bottoms meaning because it's down by the river there, right? And it's like that little area, and it's like...
it was like the Bottoms. It was a heap, trash heap. It was a whole bunch of things. It was like, it won't...
Like largely overlooked,
It won't just throwing you away. Now, keep in mind at the same time, if you were a PhD, doctoral candidate or PhD coming out then, it was tough for you to become a professor at a historically white institution. So you either got a job at an HBCU or you taught in high school. So Crispus Attucks, legend has it, at that time they had college professors teaching their high school courses. So you have this amazing breadth of just education coming out. So out of that school you have 4- and 5-star generals that are out. Oscar Robinson is out of Crispus Attucks.
Yeah.
You've got renowned musicians and jazz artists. You've got artists in general. You've got congresswomen and senators. You've got all these folks that have came out of the ashes. You think about it, right? I mean, that school is amazing. It is also, and we've made some investments, the Indy Health District is in partnership with IPS and Crispus Attucks as well. wanting to invest. One of our first investments was actually a fellowship we created for the students there, to create a pipeline for more folks to get into the healthcare industry. Partner with IU Health. We tweaked the curriculum a little bit, so the fellowship has paid internships and externships, and any kid who comes into it in their freshman year and finishes through their senior year is guaranteed a job offer with IU Health.
That's incredible.
Now that's there. The Herald, which is in the go ahead.
I do. I put together some stuff on Crispus Attucks just because to reiterate how impactful this high school is. So, one, Crispus Attucks was the first only all-black high school in Indianapolis when it opened in 1927.
Yep.
I believe it was also the first all-black team to win a state title in basketball.
Yep.
Like, that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Especially when you think about Indiana sport, right? Where you're like, oh, we're based on basketball. What's also interesting is, do you know who Crispus Attucks was?
Yep. If you think about the Tea Party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was an African-American native sailor, became the first person killed in the Boston Massacre.
Boston Massacre, yeah.
It's almost like they had some tie-ins when they were putting this whole thing together. Like, that's impactful. You know? And I think that's a piece of Indiana basketball that I don't know. That was enlightening. I did not know that.
That's amazing.
And that's really, really.
You've got, if you think about the Crown Hill, so that's in the southwestern part of the district, in that Ransom Place, historic Planter House Homes neighborhood is where kind of Crispus Attucks is situated. If you head north in the district, think about Crown Hill Cemetery and the history. Some of the people who are buried in Crown Hill, oh, dude, it's like a who's who.
Yeah.
Of the afterlife, right? If you were to go, you've got Dillinger, you got
we want to make sure that to get in podcasts. Like, I need to get a reservation in Crown Hill for one day, right?
Seriously, I mean, the history of, and it's a beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful. Yeah. If you go in, I mean,
there's a bike trail too that goes through there, and you can just it's just a very reflective, beautiful experience to go through there. You were talking about Heron, or what was the neighborhood you were talking about?
So that's in Crown Hill.
Yeah.
In the Meridian Highland neighborhood, I think that's where the Herald is.
Herald.
Which is one of the first black newspapers that were published.
No way.
Check that for me. It's right on It's right on Illinois. The building is still there.
I've seen this building.
The building is still there. It's not, I mean, obviously it's not operating anymore, but that building represents a bit of history that should be noted. So that's in the district. Then you think about the things that people know about. The Indianapolis Children's Museum is one of the largest, if not the largest in the country. It's the best children's museum in the country. Ivy Tech, I think, is the largest junior, 2-year college in the country. Just think about all of those assets in this historic 1,500-acre footprint that we call the Indy Health District.
Samson, do you know Samson Livingston?
Does tours, yeah.
He does
Walking
some great tours. I wish that I could just clone him 1,000 times to do every neighborhood.
Yeah.
He's just one guy making it. But I just love learning about the history of our city and of our state. Yeah. I think it's so fascinating. So basketball sport has been a huge part of your life.
Yeah, you sent me down that history lane
too. I love
it.
Basketball sports have been a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
Who is one Hoosier athlete that's made a huge impact in your life?
No, that's an easy one, actually. So when I was at Purdue, man, really chasing my little hoop dream, I give a speech called The Power of Expectation. And in it, I just talk about setting those expectations are critically important, and self-reflection within that is the most critical step. And I was in that space and time trying to figure some things out, playing ball. My game was coming around pretty good, but always not quite good enough, right? Which is a tough thing for an athlete to struggle with. And one of the folks that approached me, I was working out in the gym, older guy, I learned later was Leroy Keys. I don't know if you know who Leroy Keys is. You should look that up. Leroy Keys is a Purdue legend. Football great who went on to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he became a mentor of mine, not about sports, but just about life. And he never himself told me anything about his athletic history. He introduced me to his wife, Monica. Shout out to Monica, who's now Coach Keys has since passed away. But he was a great influence on me in my life. At the time, I was really beginning to appreciate just how important family was and what that meant to me. And for him to kind of take me and introduce me to his family and his boys without asking for anything in return, man. And just he was a great example, dude. And then I started asking around, and in Purdue lore, like he was
a first-round pick for the NFL draft.
He was amazing.
Third overall.
They said he did everything. They was like he kicked field goals. He
I'm
ran the ball. They said he did everything.
He started out at running back, rushed for 637 yards, had 3 touchdowns as a rookie, and then he ends up switching over to safety in 1971 and made 6 interceptions and recovered 3 fumbles. Leroy Keys, Purdue legend.
Give the ball to Leroy.
You were just at the gym?
I was in there working out. I would work out I worked out twice a day, 6 days a week. And there was a guy who cleaned up, like the janitor. His name was Mr. Ben. He would let me in the back of the rec. And I set my cones and stuff up. Apparently, Mr. Ben knew Coach Keys really well, and they were in there talking. And Coach Keys just came over to me, and he challenged me he was annoying me really in the beginning because I was like trying to work out. And he came over and was just like, I bet you can't make that shot kind of thing, right? And I'm like, look, old guy, like get away from me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A testament to how good of an athlete he was. He just picks up the ball and you're like, shoot. And I don't think he ever played basketball. He just shoots the ball. He had an ugly jump shot, but it went in. And so he and I get into this little shooting contest, and he asked me where I was from and what I was doing. And honestly, when I asked him what he did, he said I played golf. He never mentioned football. He never did. He said, I play golf, and you should come out and play with me sometime. So I would see him around, I would speak, and then I ran into him at Mackey one day, and that's when I met his wife, Monica. And he introduced me to her, and they were just nice people. One thing led to another, man. And then I started picking his brain just about everything. And then someone saw me talking to him, and they said, do you know who that is? And I go, yeah, that's Coach Leroy. And they're like, dude, that's Leroy Keys. And I'm like, yeah, Leroy. And they said, no, dude, he's like Mr. Purdue, everything, right? And then like I just started looking it up, and you just see like, oh, crap. And when I would bring it up, he would sidestep it. He would never talk about it.
I kind of love that. Yeah, 2-time All-American at Purdue, first-round draft pick.
Played for the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. Yep. And then played for Kansas City.
Yep.
And then he is just like, yeah, I play golf. Like,
yeah, he was like, and he was a hell of a golfer too. His son Cortland is a hell of a golfer too. He has a crazy swing. But yeah, he was a hell of a golfer. He could hit the ball a mile.
I love it. That's like such a, I feel like an Indiana thing too, where it's like people are humble and they want to learn more about you and what you have to, what your story is versus just bragging about their own the whole time. Yeah. Jamal, this has been an incredible episode. We end every episode with the same 3 questions that we ask every guest who comes on. Okay. First one, you've been a few different places. You've seen some different things. You lived in some new areas. We won't bring it up that he was from Ohio, but it's okay. But what's something the world needs to know about Indiana?
Indiana has an amazing culture of collaboration and partnership. And here's what I mean by that. This is why one of the reasons I think the Indy Health District is so doable. I get folks all the time who are in awe of how our philanthropic world and our institutions are in support of initiatives. And I know that sounds like for the layperson, like, oh, what does that mean? Like there's a reason why things get incubated in this city. And there's some really innovative folks. I'm partial to the sports industry. So if you love sports, this is not necessarily uncommon, and the world should know that Indy is the space to come for sports. And I think we're at the cusp of an amazing breakthrough in that area.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like racing in Indy cars getting hotter by the minute, right? You have to talk about women's basketball. You talk about men's basketball.
Yep.
And we're gonna figure it out this season. We're gonna get on the right. We'll be good.
NFL,
and then
NASCAR.
we find we're betting that Daniel Jones is gonna be the guy. So like things are great. But like Colts. You think about, you got Colts, you got the professional volleyball team, the Ignite up in Fishers, you have the Freight, you have like there's a lot of cool stuff when it comes to sport happening.
Watch out for things like flag football for young ladies.
Dude.
Watch.
It's growing. So this is going to be funny. So you're a basketball guy. Yeah. I'm a wrestling guy. I'm the head wrestling coach at Bishop Chatard.
Oh, nice.
That's like my passion project. I love it, dude. And women's wrestling last season, the girls wrestling was the fastest growing sport in America because like they turned it on. Like all these girls just wanted to like go beat each other up. Yeah. It's really cool to see like all these new opportunities in sports that are open to, all genders and everything.
You're going to see that pop up. I can see gymnastics taking a new birth in Indy. Like there's just a lot of that. For those of us who love sports, it's just crazy breeding ground.
Talk about flag football. I cannot wait for flag football to be in the Olympics.
Yes.
Like imagine just like
Super
like you got Patrick Mahomes out there against like a part-time plumber from Italy. Just like
right.
Like you're out there and it's like I don't know whoever it is like Travis Kelce lines up against like a guy who like roofs homes and it's like sorry I have to do this to you, dude. It's great. Final 2 questions.
Yep.
What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
Go find you a home and pop-up shop and stay there
Yeah, I
permanently.
think that's a good spot. Like, if you think of getting people exposed to this new district, like swing by the studs.
Swing by the studs.
Final question for you. This is where you get to share the love, and it helps us find new guests or people that we need to know about. Who is a Hoosier that we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
Kevin Burkos, Dr. Kevin Burkos, former professor. In fact, I don't know if I've ever called him doctor. He's tackling this space of education, which if there was ever an industry that needs to, some shakeup, it's that piece. I met him when I was running the Lead Change Project where we were trying to engage more kids in sport and we were trying to support those kids through their academic space. And we were looking to get some tutors, pay for some tutors. He had this method where he says, I'll tell you what, he had this peer-to-peer. He says, doing it differently. He says, I want to take the nerd in your school who's probably unpopular and nobody ever talks to, but he's getting straight A's. And I'm going to pair him with a kid on your team that you're trying to get. And he says, that's going to be his tutor. And he'll get more out of that than if I brought that teacher in. And I go, nah, get out of here. He was spot on.
Really?
Spot on.
This is math track, right?
Well, that evolved into math track.
Wow.
By the time, I forget what this tutoring program was called, but it was this peer-to-peer piece. And so we started pairing up nerds with athletes, and it was crazy. So
we say that with love and endearment.
Oh, dude, mad respect for all the nerds. Because you know what happened, right? The athletes got smarter, the nerds got more popular. And all of a sudden, we had this whole culture, and then they became supporters of the team. The athletes so the nerds were no longer getting bullied because they were cool with the athletes. It was a great thing that happened. So.
I love that you speak like in normal person talk. Like that's so great to hear. Okay, this is crazy that you just said that. This weekend, I was down in Du Bois County, around Jasper.
Yep.
I talked to one of a parent there, and they talked about how they're getting a lot of different, because there's a lot of manufacturing and those kind of jobs, and they're getting a lot of diversity in their community. Yeah. And there's a large prevalence of English second language students. Yep. And I don't know how many years ago, but they started a program where they took 6 high-performing English speakers and 6 high-performing Spanish speakers and teamed them up in like this peer-to-peer learning where, and their teachers spoke to them one day in all English and one day in all Spanish. And I'm butchering exactly how it worked. Yeah. But those became like the top students at the school because they were teaching each other. Yeah. So like you're learning Spanish from a native Spanish speaker and you're learning English from a native English speaker.
Who's the same generation. Yeah. It might be a different language, but speaks kind of the same vibe, right? So that's the same thing that happened to us. Anyway, he's going some new stuff with Math Track. I think it's amazing. The other person I would bring up is Emil Ekior. I don't know if you've met Emil yet. He's a previous guest. Man, Emil is dope, bro. He's doing a lot in that business incubation space. Yeah. If you haven't, it sounds like you've already met him. But for all of your guests who haven't met him, I'd say tap in with Emil as well.
Good, dude. Jamal, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing, the progress you guys have already made, as well as painting this vision for what the Indy Health District is going to look like going forward. Especially, we're on this track to Indy being one of the fastest growing, but one of the largest metropolitan areas in the Midwest by 2030. And the way that the Indy Health District is going to play into that and help us, continue to grow and bring more people into the Hoosier State. We love it. Keep up the good work. If people want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about the Indy Health District, where can they do that? How can they do that?
Absolutely. So a website, www.indyhealthdistrict.org. Same on all of our social handles as well, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll say pull up. One of the things you can pull up to, we have a floating farmers market, right? Farmers markets are big. We just invested in one of the local vendors in the district, and she runs the floating farm. We call it floating farmers markets because it rotates throughout the district to each of the 5 neighborhoods. Oh. So every Friday in the district, there's a farmers market. Tell all your guests to pull up, man, and support those local vendors. Yeah, and go get some fresh produce.
I love, and that's like you're being innovative on the way to bring grocery to the neighborhood.
And we decided, ironically you said that, because we decided to do that while we're working on the grocery store.
I love it, man. Hey, keep up all the great work.
Yes, sir.
And we'll check in too.
Appreciate you, Nate.
All right, that's a wrap on today's Nonprofit Spotlight, and I hope you're as fired up as I am about the work being done by amazing leaders right here in Indiana. Big thanks again to Elements Financial for sponsoring the series. As a credit union, they're not-for-profit and built on the idea of empowering individuals to achieve financial success. That's why they've been empowering Hoosiers and folks around the globe for 95 years. They're based in Indy, but they serve members in all 50 states and more than 50 countries, and they're serious about giving back, teaching more than 1,000 financial wellness classes every year, offering volunteer hours and donating 1% of net profits to causes that matter. So if you're looking for a financial partner that's rooted in purpose and proud to serve, check out elements.org/getin. That's elements.org/getin and use promo code GETIN. Elements Financial, like a bank, only better. Federally insured by NCUA. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time right here on Get In.